Well, there you go, folks. Here we are. We're back. Of course, I don't think that you believed for one moment that AtRandom was ever going to come back. But never lose faith. Okay, never lose faith that the show will return at some random interval in the future. We're going to blame CERN's linear accelerator for the temporal distortions. Welcome to another episode of AtRandom. My name is Rick Timmis.
I'm John Wordsworth.
I'm Jackson Matthews. And to quote Ice-T, they tried everything they could do to shut us down, but like any good monster, it just made us stronger.
Ooh yeah! Booyakasha!
Now we're going to wait for Rick's router to blow up again.
Good stuff. So, okay, well, the first thing to tell you folks, of course, this is going to look like a rerun, isn't it? So, for regular viewers, of course, you've seen the first half of this show, Back's Headroom. And
Love it.
So it's going to be a little bit of a little bit of a rerun, because obviously we covered some of this last time, and then, well, randomly I just vanished. So we'll maybe talk more about that a little bit in the show. But so what we got for you guys today, well, obviously this show's about discovering Python, so we're going to get right into that when we start talking about deep thought. We're going to catch up with each other first of all. Let's find out what everybody's been doing. Then we'll get into the app reviews. We've got some cool news and some interesting things for you to check out, so stay with us. And of course then we'll get right on into taking a look at Python. So let's see how everybody is first of all. So in your darkened dungeon there, Jack, how are tricks, man?
Yeah, it's all good here. Yeah, I'm still doing the full-time dad thing. I've not up sticks and left or anything.
Right.
So I'm still, I'm still in position and everything. And yeah, it's going really well. You get the feeling that you're finally starting to get the hang of it and everything. But all my efforts and hobbies are mainly going towards home entertainment at the moment. How to keep her amused, how to keep me amused, and keep everybody happy. But yeah, that's pretty much my life at the moment. There's not much going on, but yeah, no, it's going really well,
Cool.
Excellent stuff. Excellent. So, John, what you been up to? Oh, I trust you're still in. The winter's drawing in now, isn't it? It's got to be getting cold.
I tell you, it's still not too cold yet, but I tell you, over the last literally, I don't know, 3 or 4 weeks, the nights have just come right back. So it was about 2 or 3 weeks ago, and we were in a pub, obviously, on a weeknight, and we just suddenly realised it's dark. That means it must be late. Not anymore. Now
that's nice though, isn't it?
It's 8:30. Well, yes, it is nice, but we know where it's going. So
yeah. I just miss the inside of a pub, John. Like, I mean, I've been to pubs, but like, you can't go with anybody. You know what I mean? You can't go with like a bunch of mates or something.
You just go and drown your sorrows.
Yeah, I just go there and I drink.
Well, you can, of course, Jack. You only have to just send me a text, mate, and I'll meet you up the Three Horseshoes.
Yeah, we should.
Yeah, the Stables or whatever it's called. I don't know.
Yeah, that would be good. Yeah, I've been out of the habit for too long, I think.
Maybe we should do that. Maybe what we should do, because there's got to be some listeners and viewers that are around in the local area. I know we've got quite a lot in South Africa and places like that. And obviously, we're not expecting them to come over and visit. But if you're in our local area, then maybe we could we should get up to the pub and announce it and let people that know that we're going to do an AtRandom kind of. Yeah, what would it? It'd be a bar camp, wouldn't it? The AtRandom bar camp.
Yes.
Awesome. I would be sad to miss that though, so we should do one in Stockholm at some point as well.
Yeah, hey, we could fly out.
Pretty cheap. We've got a spare room.
Especially now that you
share a bed.
Yeah.
That sounds alright.
Hold your horses. Hang on a moment. Just slow down there a minute.
How big's the room, John? How big's the room?
It's a double bed. It's all good.
Double, perfect.
It follows the.
Get 2 people in it, you're done.
It follows the sort of Swedish tradition, which I really like, actually. Of there are no double quilts here, so you both get a single quilt. What more could you want?
Is that
a bivvy bag and a sleeping bag and a bivvy bag? If I've got to sleep with Jackson.
But no, it seems to be a very Scandinavian and possibly Eastern, European as well. I'm not sure, but definitely a Scandinavian thing where even if you're in a double bed, you just get a blanket each. It's kind of cool.
That's actually probably a good idea now. Now I think about it, what with the wife and everything, she's nicking the covers and everything. She's terrible for that.
Oh yeah, it's yeah, and then what they do, they nick the covers, and then they tell you that you're taking up all the bed and that you're nicking the covers.
Yeah, that's right.
Of course you are.
And it's a strategy, that, isn't it? It's like the best form of defence is attack. So they wake up in the morning knowing they've had a really lovely sleep, and you've been out shivering on the corner of the bed, and they go, "Here, you were nicking the covers all last night," and you're like, "What?
I was trying to, I couldn't bloody get them.
Wrong-footed before you start. Oh, I don't know.
And how about yourself, Rick? How's it going?
Well, well, obviously since we crapped out last time, I've been on holiday. So we went on holiday, travelling around UK in our camper van. We went all around Dorset and just hanging out, and it was really cool actually to be left the mobile phone at home and disconnected from the internet and disconnected from tech, and went off playing around in rubber dinghies and snorkeling and doing all kinds of stuff, and it was just fantastic. It was really, really nice to do that, and you'll know, well, both of you guys will know yourselves actually from running businesses of your own in the past, that when you're running your own business, you can't do that. You can't just decouple from the world, and so to be able to do that, my wife was delighted that we could do that, and it was really good for me to do that. So that was really, really cool, and I came back kind of excited about new tech, and kind of started digging around and rooting around at things. And have you guys seen this the news about this new AMD 16-core FX Zen processor?
I have not. No.
No, I don't think so.
Okay. So we might be one of the very early runners of this, but apparently this has been announced by AMD. They're bringing these things out in 2016, early part of 2016, and these are going to be 16 core, and this is not shared like GPU cores and CPU cores. This is 16 full CPU cores, 512 megabytes of L2 cache on each core. It's either 2 or 3 gigabytes of L3 cache on each core, and I just thought to myself, I need one of those. I've got to get one.
Yeah, 32 megas of L3 cache is quite nice. Although I still imagine that a 16-core AMD will now finally be up to the standard of a quad-core i7.
Right. Okay. Well, apparently this thing is each core is 2 threads, so it's capable of running 32 threads. So
that's pretty awesome.
So the architecture does sound really good, and they've given, apparently it's got a 40% improvement over the it was a 40% improvement over the I keep thinking to say bulldozer, but it's not bulldozer, the excavator chip. So the last chip they did was the excavator chip.
Yeah.
And obviously it's I mean 40% is quite a lot. Anyway, we'll have to see. I mean, but I am in the market for a kind of new workstation. That's what I sort of come back and thought to myself, yeah, it's about time. I mean, I'm still using that workstation that you gave to me, John. Do you remember the one with the red front in your office? And it's running tons of stuff. It's quite spectacular.
God, I can't remember what that thing. Oh no, I can remember that one. Yeah, I do remember. I remember the computer you mean. That's right. Yeah.
Like 2.5 years before we gave it to Rick.
God, yeah.
That was a good couple of years ago. So.
Is any wine stains on it?
Yeah, I think there are a little bit. Well, there was some. I took it out to put some SATA drives in it, and it was full of dried bits of pizza.
Yes, there's a bottle in the bottom.
Yeah.
And that hasn't worked right since you've taken them out, has it?
I still sincerely believe that during that during the ISAM Moby development time, they were the best Scrum meetings in the world.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, no question.
And to top it off, we probably spent more on wine and pizza than we've made back from it in the first year.
Yeah. I don't doubt that actually. I don't doubt that for a moment.
Good for the soul, though.
Yeah, that was good stuff. Okay, so well, that's what I've been doing. So, well, what about you then, John? What have you been doing?
What have I been doing? Well, I mean, swimming in baths of Apple news, of course, because someone has to. So I've been
All right.
enjoying.
Took me a second to pass that sentence.
Enjoying WatchOS 2 on my Apple Watch. I don't know which way.
Is it going? Is it switching orientation as you turn your hand?
Probably not. I don't think it's that. It's meant to be read by me, not really you guys. So it's turning
For your eyes only kind of thing.
It's turning off when I face it away from me because.
Oh, what's it got
Because it's
behind?
smart.
But
Hey, it's pretty cool.
But yeah, it's definitely the heart rate monitoring stuff is pretty cool if you're going to use the fitness side of it. I think it's a pretty good device. If you just want it as a smartwatch, then it's massively expensive for just
Yeah.
an email.
Does it beep at your wife when you're lying? It's
No,
got like
I think my wife likes it as much as I do because it's. I actually answer my phone now. I used to have my phone all silent in my bag all the time, and I wouldn't notice if a message came through for an hour or two. Whereas now, at least I know, and I can decide not to respond, as opposed to not responding because I haven't noticed.
Can you like talk through your watch? Can you like raise it up like Captain Kirk and just talk through your wrist?
Oh yeah.
So when you get a phone call, you can,
There we go.
You can just push the button on your watch, and then you can just be like, "Hello, yes."
Perfect.
That's Kirk. No, you don't want to do it like that. You do it like this, John. You press the button and you go, "Shut up, Wesley."
But yeah, and then obviously there was like the Apple Pro and stuff, iPad Pro, sorry, which is probably the next thing on my shopping list.
What's that one
Oh
again?
right, okay.
It's I'm not really sure if it's going to be good or not, but I can see some use cases where I think it's really good. And it's basically just a 13-inch iPad, but it's going to be kind of quad core with 4 gigs of RAM, so it's basically a laptop hardware.
Mhm.
And you can get Apple obviously go for this kind of like, oh, we're so cool, we're just going to use a simple name for our stuff, but it's like, so it's coming out with the Apple Pencil.
The Apple Pencil, yeah.
Which is a stylus. But it's quite cool because it's got tilt in it as well. So not only has it got the pressure and the location, but it's got the the tilt. So you can do this, and then it acts like the side of a pencil, or
That's good.
or something. So I think it would be pretty cool, and they're finally allowing like multitasking on the iPad, so you can snap in one app next to the other. And I think what's quite clever is that they've made the screen exactly. Imagine this was an iPad Pro and a lot bigger, then this iPad actually fits exactly in like this area. So all apps that currently run on this iPad, this way up, will fit exactly here, and then you've got space for like another half an app here. So you can run all the current iPads apps at their native resolution, as long as they're portrait, and then you can put in something like email or a web browser for the other side of it, and then you can mix and match. So,
That's a nice idea. No, that's been thought through. Yeah, I like the sound of that. Yeah.
And I think it would just be a good, if you go to a lot of meetings and you want to take notes, I think it might finally be something you can use to take notes on that isn't paper, which is what I've been trying to do for the last 2 or 3 years, but it just consistently goes wrong. Like I tried getting a Surface a couple of years ago, Microsoft Surface, for the same reason. It's like I just want to do away with paper. I want to go into a meeting, pull a piece of technology up, write my notes on it, and go back and have them digitized forever. But there's just always been issues. Like you use OneNote, and then every third pen stroke it loses. Or
see, that for me, that's inexcusable, isn't it? I mean, when you're losing pen strokes, it's like the whole point of this program is to record my pen strokes, so you can write something down. If it's losing pen strokes, you have to wonder like, what was the point of even starting developing this?
But hopefully the iPad Pro will be the first device I can use as a pad replacement, which is kind of ironic that I'm trying to spend £800 on technology to replace something which costs £2.50. But
it takes up less room. It's a question of storage.
Nope, a pencil and a book takes up less room than an iPad.
But if you're gonna keep all your books when you fill a book,
then
it's done.
And
it'll always be worth it, John. Always.
I mean, I'll obviously use it for the million other things it does that a book doesn't. So it's only a little bit of irony, but it's still kind of funny when it's like, I just want something I can write on. It's like paper and a pen.
Yeah. It's like that thing with the astronauts, isn't it? With the when the Americans made that pen that could like write in zero gravity at any angle, and the cosmonauts just used a pencil.
Yeah, that's really good. Well, you can rest assured I won't be buying an iPad Pro. I think it sounds lovely and all the rest of it, but now a couple of years ago I was raped for the last time by Apple, and that won't be happening again.
No, it's best once is enough, isn't it? When it comes to that kind of thing.
I think so. Yeah, I think so. Cool. Okay. Well, let's do a segue jump. Oh, that gap should be enough. And let's dive on into the app reviews then, so we can press on and get into our main segue, our main segment. So we got 3 apps that we want to take a look at today, and John, what you got for us? Tell us about your little gadget.
So a couple of months ago, I thought it's about time I got serious, SRS, with my passwords. I've always had a few, maybe 8 or 9 passwords in my head. Although maybe there's kind of 5, and then there's 5 variants on that. But every month another site gets hacked. You get another email saying your data has been compromised. So I thought it's just about time I put all my eggs in one basket, as it were, and use the password manager. See how that experience is. So I got a Mac application originally called One Password by AgileBit, and the hypothesis, I guess, behind AgileBit. So there's some services where you log into a website and just do it through a web browser, and there's some services where you buy an app and you store the data yourself. And I was like, I guess if it's going for security, I should probably have the data myself. That's the point.
Yeah.
So I put the data in Dropbox, and then I got the 2-factor authentication on my Dropbox account, and now I've got in there my 1Password database, which has my piles of passwords now randomly generated for different sites. So each site will have, I say every site, some old forums and stuff I use I haven't bothered to migrate across because I just want to log in. But the idea is you can put, I want to log into Amazon. You go to the login page, and when you type in create account, 1Password notices and goes, hey, I can give you a better password than that. And you go, all right then, I'm game. So you click generate password, and it fills the password in for you, and it'll be 16 random characters. It stores that in your database, and then obviously you use the database to log in the future. But it's a very smooth workflow. I was expecting it to be pretty painful. I was like, I'm going to have to look at this app if I want to log in somewhere. But they've got kind of Chrome plugins, and Safari plugin, and Firefox plugin, and there's apps for iPad and iPhone, and even my watch. And now when I go to log into these sites, what I normally do instead of going to the website first is I just bring up 1Password, and then I click on the website bookmark, and it takes me straight to the logged in page, which is kind of cool because it's no more clicks. Obviously, sometimes I have to type in my master password for 1Password, so you have 1Password, hence the name, which you wrap around your database of passwords, and if you lose it, you're screwed because there's no way getting it out because it's encrypted your data. But as long as you remember that password and it's quite solid, then you just type that password in once every half an hour or so I can use my computer for a bit without having to do it again. And then you can just use the links in the app to go to your websites. And yeah, it's pretty good. It's worth a good review, I think, because it makes it painless to have a different password for every site you log into.
Okay. So, that's 1Password. So, when we got some links in the show notes for you guys as well. So, go and check it out and take a look, see what you think.
Is there a security issue with that? Because if they hack like 1Password, then they can get to all your passwords.
Yeah, so that's why you store it yourself, obviously. In order to get my passwords, you would have to first hack my Dropbox, and I have 2-factor authentication on my Dropbox. So not only would you need to know my Dropbox password, you'd also have to have my phone or my iPad.
Yep.
If you have both of those things, then you can get the file. Then you'd have to guess the other password to get the data out of that file. But then, yes, if you've managed to do all of that, you have all my passwords.
A lot to go through, yeah.
But I mean, for most people who only have 3 passwords, if you crack those 3 stages already, you've got all their passwords, you know.
Yeah. No, that's fair, yeah. It's like a question if they've made it across the drawbridge, then that's it anyway, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so. And then obviously then you've still got hopefully, I don't have my Gmail password in there, for instance. I've still got my Gmail password in my head. So, I mean, absolute worst case, if someone gets all my passwords apart from Gmail, they still can't change my registered email account, hopefully. And I can recover them somehow. So.
Yeah. So, there you go, all you hackers out there. That's the challenge is out.
It might be easy. It might be easier done at gunpoint. I think the answer is just burst through John's door, hold a gun to his head, and see whether you. I mean, you've got his phone. Then you've got him in front of the computer. It's just whether he's going to give you the password, and that's all going to be on balance of how secure he thinks his data is compared to catching a bullet, I suppose.
Yeah, that's right.
I'll warn you, I've got pretty fast hands. So.
Wow! Cool stuff. Okay. Well, I brought a little bit of a treat along for you guys so we can explore a little bit. One of the things that I have been mucking about with for a little while is radio. So years and years ago, I was into ham radio and CBs and things like this, and talking to people all around the world, kind of before the days of the internet, I suppose, doing that kind of thing. And just a wee while ago, somebody gave me a ham radio that could receive different frequencies all across the amateur radio band, and I put a big antenna up, like a big long wire antenna from my office here up through across the garden, and connected this enormous Yaesu rig. I've got it down there actually, and I won't pick it up because it's too heavy, but it is a big old box with big dials and knobs and widgets on the front and this and the other. And I thought to myself, well, do you know, I'm fairly sure that things must have improved since the days of the old valve dial radios and stuff like that. And so I started doing some Googling, and I came across GNU radio, or GNU radio. Now, what you need for GNU radio is something like this. I'll hold this up to the camera here. This is a little USB, DVD, DAB, FM modulator. So it's a receiver, basically. It comes with a little antenna and a remote control and a little wire here. Which is, so this whole thing now apparently replaces my, 10 kilo Yaesu rig and my 70-foot long wire in the garden. Jeez. So things have come a considerable way since I was last messing around. Anyway, the short story is that one of these plugged into my box with the appropriate Linux device drivers, and it sets up something called an SDR. Now, SDR stands for Software Defined Radio. And what that allows you to do is it allows you to just do incredibly cool things. So in the first instance, GNU Radio is a whole sequence of C modules, little C units, like a toolkit, like Lego blocks, if you like, of radio components. So receivers, tuners, high-pass filters, low-pass filters, all defined and set out in software. And GNU Radio provides a GTK-based interface, so a GNOME toolkit interface, so a graphical user interface, and a set of Python bindings. And of course, we're going to get more into Python and those kinds of things. And what this allows you to do is it allows you to connect. So, for example, I could connect an FM receiver modulator and an oscillator together and plug them in so that I can now start decoding radio signals, and then I could probably put a phase lock loop and plug that into that. So now I can begin tuning on those radio signals, and I could pick up FM radio or DAB or something like that if I wanted to. And I can tune right across a massive spectrum. I mean, the range goes up to about 2 gigahertz, I think, from somewhere in the region of about 50 or 60 megahertz, so it doesn't quite come down into the low frequencies, but I mean, it's a huge range. It's much bigger frequency selection range than Oh, there it is. Bandwidth, 6-7 megahertz to about something in the gigahertz frequency there, it says. And so that means that I can receive radio signals from all over the place. But then it gets even better than that, because one of the things that used to fascinate me, and I tried to learn a little bit of Morse code, and I probably got about a third of the alphabet, so I can listen to Morse and stick my hands on the keys, and I can get something together. But it would need a lot more practice. And I thought it'd be really cool if I could listen to Morse code signals. Well, guess what? There's a plug-in for that too, so I can plug in a Morse receiver that will simply pick up the Morse signals and just tap it out on the screen and show me what the messages are, so I can receive them. So let me go to the nth degree now. So what I can also do then, of course, is I can tune this antenna to the radio frequencies of the transponders that are being transmitted from all the aircraft that are flying around in the sky. And each one of those transponders gives a GPS signal and information about where it is. And then I've got plugins that I can plug in for that will decode that information, pull it in, plot it onto Google Maps, and show you high altitude flight paths and so on and so forth of planes that are flying around, and just all kinds of cool stuff.
You can sort of feel the world moving around you, sort of thing.
Yeah, exactly. And there is loads of different applications and things that you can do with that kind of toolkit. And it's been really nicely put together as well. So if you've got a 64-bit machine, you can just download a ready-built ISO from GNUradio.org. You can find it on the links in the show notes, and you can download the ISO, boot into it, and it's all ready to go. Or alternatively, you can download the components from GNU and obviously compile them in, or whatever you want to do to build them on your own distro. And this little device, this was quite astonishing. I mean, that radio rig that I've got there, back in the day, that was probably a best part of 750, 800 pounds, something like that. And I'm talking about 27, 28 to 30 years ago that it was that kind of money. So it would be a four to £5,000 rig. This is £9.95 on eBay.
That's better, isn't it?
That's yeah.
Better.
I'm just looking at the software now, some screenshots. It looks really cool. Like the modular thing, you can presumably just like drop these little units on and then connect them together. That looks really cool.
It's incredible. Can you imagine going back in time and telling yourself, like, this is how big it's going to be in the future. This is what you're going to do. This is what you're going to do the same stuff with on this equipment. Yeah, well, this device, it's too small to call equipment anymore, isn't it?
Yeah.
Just more electronics.
It's quite astonishing, really quite astonishing. So as yet, unfortunately, I've watched a bunch of YouTube videos on it, and I've done some other bits and pieces, and I've kind of got myself into a position. But going through the summer, there's so much going on that I've not really had the time for it. But now we go into the darker nights and the winter months. I've got a few projects going on here at Timis Towers, and GNU Radio is one of them, and obviously the 3D printer, getting the RepRap Mendel up and running and doing some work over the winter period. So I've been mucking about with some of that.
I've been saving some money recently, and I keep thinking, I need to resist these things. It's like
the 3D printer
for the sake of buying.
Yeah.
But I really want an Oculus Rift like you've got, Rick.
Oh God, yes.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
Get Elite and get an Oculus Rift. But no, I'm resisting because there'll be a final version out at some point, and I should get that instead of the half neutral.
Yeah.
I should get Elite actually, and I haven't got Elite, and I ought to get that and play it on the Oculus Rift, and then give you a review, John, so you can weep, you can cry.
That is the Oculus Rift game. So.
Yeah. I want to use it on Free Space when they finally get around to when the Oculus Rift comes out properly. The Free Space guys will start like whacking a bunch of stuff into the Free Space Open project.
Yeah.
And they'll put that in pretty quick. I'm sure they've been thinking about it because they've got stuff in there for Track IR already, but not for they've not meant to talk much about the Oculus Rift yet. But I think they're waiting for the technology to come out and be final. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then I'll be getting that bolted onto a Kinect or whatever it is they do, so I can sit in a virtual cockpit or something. I'm actually really looking forward to that. I'm going to be like you, Rick, with your iRacing.
Yeah. Yeah,
with like a
I
room
can get
carved
that.
out for it, with like a makeshift cockpit in there with all the trimmings.
So what would
I was looking.
what would I
Go ahead,
search
John.
for, Rick, if I was going to find one of those little dongles that you do that GNU radio stuff on? I'm just trying to find one on the internet.
Oh, here you go. I'll tell you exactly what you need to look for. It is. There's a special number. It's the chipset that you need to search for. 1 second, I'm just looking for that now. Oh boy. Hang on 1 minute. I can't see them without my glasses on. I've got my glasses on. Stupid man, shut up. This is the company's made by Digital Energy. So that's the brand, Digital Energy, and it's called a mini digital TV stick. Now, the chip that's in this is a Realtek chip, which I can't remember off the top of my head which one it is. But if you have a Google for that and then see if you can see a packet that looks like this with...
already, yeah.
Yeah?
From that, so it's the same box.
And if it gives you some specs, it will tell you it's something like a... I can't remember the number of the chip, but it doesn't say on here in the packet what the chip is, as they never do they? They tell you all the marketeers forget to give you any tech spec.
Yeah, the thing you actually want.
So with this stuff, is there like a chance, like in the old days, that you could pick up like some Lunatics Pro broadcast or something? I'd imagine that's quite...
Oh, yeah.
That sounds
Yeah,
brilliant.
absolutely. Yeah, you can get... And you'd be astonished, you would be absolutely astonished at the number of radio stations across the frequency spectrum. I got another little radio here from Maplin, which is an Eaton shortwave radio. It's got it's tri-band, 3 different shortwaves. It's plugged into the big 70-foot aerial here. And I can wind that around during the day and find all sorts of different stations. And there's like loads of stations from China. And China have got stations set up in Europe, and they do an hour transmitting in English, and then they repeat the same stuff in French, and then the same stuff in German, and then it goes round again. And there's a little website called Shortwave Radio or something like that, and you basically type the frequency in, and it'll come up and it'll show you what stations are transmitting on those frequencies, what language they are, where they are in the world, and that's
pretty cool. That is. That's GNU Radio.
GNU Radio, yeah. So take a look and check it out, and you can get those little things for about £10. So it's cheap. It's cheap and hours of fun. All right. So Jackson, what magical gift have you brought in the app reviews this week?
Well, it kind of ties into what I was talking about earlier. You know, I was saying how I was putting I had a lot of interest in home entertainment because I spent a lot of time watching. Well, in all the in the past, must be 2 years. There's been a lot of movies and TV being watched. there's been a lot of sitting down. There's been a lot of late nights, all that stuff. So it's basically what I'm going to talk about is something called Kodi, formerly XBMC, which is it's basically just a very fancy but open source free media center, and this thing will run on pretty much any machine. Don't know about I'm not sure about Mac. I'm pretty sure they've got one for Mac though, because it's got a pretty I thought you were doubting. I thought it was your doubting face, John. But I'm pretty sure there's one for Mac as well. I mean, they've even got it. I've got it running on the Raspberry Pi. There's a version of it called OpenELEC. Which
Windows, Linux, Mac, Android.
There you go. Yeah.
Raspberry Pi. Phew.
Now, what's so lovely about this is just like because it's like it's community made and everything. People have obviously just keep throwing features into it. Like people obviously got little bugbears that when it comes to dealing with digital video files, things like it's lovely stuff. Like I say, you've got like your digital video file, and but you want subtitles for it, but it hasn't got subtitles with it. So what it does is you push your subtitles button, and then it connects to Subscene or I forget the name, but several like community supported subtitle sites. Connects to them. You can pick the one you want based on ratings, and then 9 times out of 10 you get a subtitle file that's actually that's pretty decent. It's not full of all like stupid spellings like you'd expect. And if it's out of sync, it's no problem. There's another control on there to let you sync it up, like delay it by a second or half a second or whatever, and the same with the audio to the video. All those little annoyances that can crop up when you're dealing with digital video.
Yeah, you finally grabbed the video you want, and the audio is half a second off.
Oh God, yeah, yeah, exactly. Or just say you've like ripped it, but you've ripped it slightly wrong or something, and for the life of you, you can't work out why. But this will just fix that. It will play just about any video file you can think of. But the really nice thing about it is it's a presentation thing. It's something that makes you feel like you've got a library. Basically, you've got all like your TV shows and your movies, but at the on the cover of each one, you've got like a little movie poster to show you like the so you can see it at a glance. It's like actually looking through a collection or the shelves on in a video store, and you can. When you move on to it, you've got like all sorts of display options. I mean, seriously, there's so many options as to the way you want to present this. But you've got like HD fan art that appears behind it. So like when you click onto Avengers, say, there's a big 1080p wallpaper appears behind of the Avengers with like the poster at the bottom. You can bring it up. It connects to IMDb, shows you pictures of all the cast, gives you info on each one. And I tell you, it just goes on and on. There's not much that you can't. Even if you want to show it to, I want to show it to the wife, and I said, "Do you want to watch this?" And she says, "Let me see a trailer." Says, "No problem." Click, click, click. There's the trailer, and it connects to YouTube, and flings up a trailer in front of you. So I mean, there's not really much that it can't do with that with all this stuff. There's some nice remote control apps for it, so you can like control it from your phone and everything. But I find it just as easy to do it with a TV remote. Like your TV remote will control the app if you've got like the usual HDMI connections.
Yeah,
I won't lie.
Whatever it's called.
Yeah, CEC or something. I won't lie. It did take a little bit of training. I know that's part of the fun for guys like us. There was a lot actually of beating it into shape. I mean, there's like you learn so much about stupid anorak crap, like like the Futurama TV series. Jesus Christ! Most of them, you just push a button and it says, "Oh yeah, I'll just pull the info from the TV DB," which tells you everything. But then you find out that Futurama has got two different orders. It's got the DVD episode order, and you've got the TV episode order, both of which are different from the production order, which is the one that makes the most sense. And there's no way to do that, the production order, except for manually. But now I know that, and I can't get it out of my head. Now that I've had to work through it, bloody awful, and I'm a more boring person for it. But if you really enjoy like fiddling with that kind of thing and just like keeping your video files like as a collection, that's something that you can show off. It's a really there's lots of different skins you can get for it, but it's a really nice way to present it, and it basically does what smart TVs were purporting to do, but nobody really uses smart TVs for that. They use a computer for what smart TVs was supposed to do, if you know what I mean. But yeah, it's a gorgeous app, and it runs for just about everything, including the Raspberry Pi if you're lucky enough to have one.
Well, the Raspberry Pi 2 is that now, isn't it? With
yes.
I mean, the same price, so still dirt cheap, and it's got 1 gig of RAM, twice what the first one has.
Oh yes.
It would make a massive difference to some of the stuff. I mean,
it
that was
really would.
The issue when I was using it before, you're like, I just install a few more things. It's too much running out of RAM.
Yeah, I can see the RAM is holding this program back at the moment. There's delays in certain menus, and you're thinking you'll be pushing play or pause, and sometimes you'll get a bit of a delay. Most of the time it works fine, but when you're going from one view to another and it sticks, and you think, yeah, a bit more RAM would really make all the difference. I know there's a version made for the Pi that you're talking about, so yeah, that'll be one for me to look for next, I think.
Hey, you're going to be really pleased about this, guys. We got to get really excited now because we've got a random interruption. All right, so we've got a random interruption just come in from IRC. One of our viewers, Dan,
oh God,
one of our viewers, Dan, says he's got a Pi 2 and he's running Open Elec, which
yes, that's the one.
Like so he's running Open Elec on the Pi 2, and he says it runs real smooth.
Tell him that is bloody good news. I'll be getting one next.
What are you running your what hardware are you running it on then, Jack?
What's the how many pies are there? I know there's like the one that your mate on IRC there's got, and
there's an
there's
A,
the
the Model A, the Model B,
yeah.
then there's a
And the
B
2B.
plus, and
Oh
then
Jesus.
there's a 2.
Oh, I didn't know there was so many. But basically, it's the I think it's the one just before the one that he's got. It's
Yeah.
got the
It's a B plus.
what's he got? He's got a
He's
gig
got
of RAM, was it?
a Pi 2 with a gig of RAM.
Yeah, yeah, but mine's half that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yours
so
is
yours
a
are probably
B.
the B plus.
That sounds right. Yeah, I know there was a lot of like talk on the website about Bs and B pluses, and I killed my library a couple of times getting the wrong file.
I know.
So why isn't this working? Because you're using the bloody Windows version.
That's what's so cool
Well,
about the Pi, right?
that
I
won't
mean,
do
it's just like you just pop the SD card out and pop another one in, and you're off. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can do what you like.
I mean, I don't do that I don't do that anymore. I just do it over I do it in the network, over the network, and I just drop it in the update folder and just let it do its thing. But I've got two like big chunky, like these tiny little Raspberry Pi and these two big brick hard drives connected up to with all the media. And I'm hoping to consolidate it in the future and put it all on like rather than a Pi, just put it all on like a big entertainment PC that just sits by the computer and just does everything, like the movies, the games, the videos, all that stuff.
Anyway, that's cool. So that's now called Kodi, you say?
Yep, that's
Yeah.
it, Kodi.
Yeah.
Or OpenELEC for the Pi version.
So a couple more tips.
Right?
So we're going to jump off this segue now, but I don't want to. When we got random interruptions from guest viewers giving us information, I always want to pitch that in. So obviously we got some links in the show notes to Kodi, so you can find out more about that and go and look that up. Dan just basically passed in and said, quick heads up, make sure you give it enough power. So it needs a 2 amp power supply, and then you'll find that it run really, really smooth on the Pi 2, and it does work really, really well with the Android phone control, which is what he does on it. So a couple of tips for anybody wanting to have a go at setting up Kodi. Pi 2 amp power supply, you're good to go.
Oh, that just reminds me, before we fly off, I've just remembered that it's available for Android as well.
Kodi,
Kodi itself is available on Android. It runs really nice, but it's got exactly the same functionality as the other versions. It's just worth throwing that in.
Right, I am going to. So I didn't realise that. I'm going to try that. I bought one of these little ARM-based media center boxes, which is an Android thing, and I saw this thing, and I saw Kodi. Now, of course, I knew it as Raspberry MC
Yes.
on the Raspberry Pi, and I saw this thing called Kodi, which you could install. So that must be it. I must be able to download that and install it on my little Android box, and so I'm going to try that. That'd be really cool.
Yeah, well worth a look.
Cool. All right. Well, let's move on, and we'll have a little gap. That ought to do it. I'll put a jingle in there one day at some point in the future when I've rendered the rest of the shows, which will be, who knows when that's going to happen.
We're so professional. You can tell we've done like 30 shows, can't you? I mean, we are like the pinnacle of professional now.
Absolutely, yeah. The guys at Jupiter Broadcasting are weeping as they see our show.
But I think it's time to move on to the star of the show, right? It's time to hit.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, all right. So, well, John, you got the tagline there. Call that a Python. So, So maybe you give us I tell you what, John. Why don't you give us a quick rundown about what John's take is on Python and what it is, and while you do that, I'm going to grab some props from up here that I can share with the viewers.
Python away, Rick.
Oh yeah.
It's not that kind of show. No, so we've talked quite a lot in the past in various shows about how learning programming really is just about trying it and doing it and playing with it and having a go. And Python is a very high level language, which is kind of I'm trying to not use all the technical buzzwords because that'll defeat the purpose, but at this point anyway. But it's a fairly easy language to get into where you can write short scripts that do a lot of things. So I think it's very appealing to someone who's learning programming because the scripts are generally quite easy to read. I mean, weird not to have curly braces everywhere, but that's just me because I'm a C programmer or C++. But beyond that, you can make some pretty powerful scripts in maybe 5, 10, 15 lines of Python that do really useful things. So it could be anything from you've got a folder full of images and you want to just walk over them and rename them, or even if you're using like the Python image library, then you might want to go through all your images and resize them. And yes, there are tools out there which you can either download and put together for free, or pay a couple of pounds for to do this for you. But if you're into learning and you want to learn programming, these are great things that you can do to get to learn it. So you can just download Python. Okay, it's a bit easier if you've got a Mac or Linux, but it's not too bad if you've got Windows. But you can download Python, and within 5 or 10 minutes, you can edit a little text file, save it on your hard drive. You run it through Python, and Python doesn't need nothing sort of really complicated happens. You don't need to compile it and turn it into a program. You just have a little, 5 or 10 line text file, and if you're just starting out, it's probably one that you copied most of off the internet and just changed a few words of. And then you just go into a little command terminal, type in Python and the name of the file, and it'll run the program. And I think that's really cool. I mean, especially if you've got like a Raspberry Pi, because you can just plug your Raspberry Pi into your TV, plug the keyboard in, bash a few keys, and you can start playing with Python straight away. But yeah, it's a pretty friendly language. One of the things that what's really cool about it is it's kind of a glue language. So there's loads and loads and loads of pre-written modules that other people have written that do cool things. So you can use Python just to kind of plug them together. And there's sort of one of its strengths comes from the fact you can use a lot of C libraries and things that people have written. I mean, there are millions of C libraries, and people have just written this little layer so they work with Python. So there's hundreds of libraries that do lots of cool things, like you can resize images, or you can plot graphs with matplotlib, or you can do some statistics like analysis, or you can connect to a database. You can do loads of stuff, and some of it's quite simple, like you might want to go over a CSV file and find the highest score from your class of children, if you're a teacher, say. But you can do a lot of these things in not many lines of code, which is very satisfying if you're learning. If you're like, I really wish, what do I do every day? I'm writing stuff for a website, and all the images need to be thumbnails. I don't want to do that all myself every time. I'll write a 5-line Python script. Done. And as you start to, I think it's kind of a positive reinforcement loop. You start to learn a bit of Python, you figure out more stuff you can do with Python, so you learn more. I think it's a really cool language like that. So I've seen a lot of people trying to learn Java or C, and the very first thing you do is let's write a program which prints "Hello World." Now we're going to write some programs that do 1 + 7 and print the result out. And then they're getting compile errors. And you can't just run it. You have to compile it first, and then you can run it. But with Python, you can just kind of get going a bit easier. So I think it's a really good language for that. So.
Yeah, I totally get that, what you just said there, John. I think that's a really good summary, of kind of where it hangs together, and because it's got this beginner's language status, and it's really developed this, hey look, it's really easy to get going and easy to get started with. It's built up a big community, and especially since the Raspberry Pi has been so successful, it's got this huge, enormous community of kind of, like low experience novice and beginner coders out there who are all using the open source model to share little bits of code. And there's so much stuff on places like Stack Overflow and things like that, that kind of the one thing that's really cool about it is that you just, if you do get stuck, even working on your own, you're not stuck for very long. All you've got to do is type a couple of questions into Google. You'll find a bunch of things that will come back at you on Stack Overflow, and there will be cut and paste code that you can just pull straight off Stack Overflow, drop into your script, as you said, change a few things, mess about with it a little bit, and before you know it, you can be building something out just like you do with Lego. It's just like kind of start gluing these things together. I need a little web server, and I need it to send data here, and I need to hook into the database, and I want to stick some data in a table, and then I want to do some logic on it, and you're off. And it isn't the syntax although, you know, I think people do complain sometimes about it's very pedantic on spacing and the way you position things, the flow of the code.
Oh, really? It pays attention to all that, does it?
It does,
So
yes.
instead of most languages where you have an if statement and everything inside the if statement is kind of wrapped up in curly brackets, and then if something is true, do this code in curly brackets. In Python, if something is true, do everything that's tabbed in. Which kind of enforces readable code, So
okay, yeah.
Tabbing, it means that even a complete novice will generally produce code. Okay, it might be a bit verbose, but then will produce code that is correctly indented and kind of so you can fairly clearly see the flow.
That's nice, actually. That was scary for a second, but now I really think about it. It just means you learn to tab in. I mean, the way you should be doing anyway, obviously. But yeah, I can imagine.
Sometimes
but it's
cut a few corners, or you move a bit of code around, and then you have to kind of re-indent everything because you've moved an if statement or something.
Yeah, I mean, I often do that anyway when I'm doing codey stuff. Like if something's moved everything out of line, I can't be having that. I'll indent everything until it's like that, because I think to myself, I might need to come back and look at this sometime. so yeah, I guess that appeals to me now I think about it, but I'd have a hard time.
One of the things that's really great about Python is it's quite a few languages are beginner languages like BASIC or something. And okay, it's great. You can learn BASIC. You can learn a bit of programming by learning BASIC. But then when you become good at BASIC, you have to learn something else to use it. But Python actually is a very fast language because, I mean, most of the stuff is written in C libraries that you call in, so they're all fast. Like if you do image manipulation, it's probably written in C, so it's fast. But you can manipulate it with Python, kind of gluing these components together. So I mean, a lot of industry, workplaces will have a lot of use of Python. I mean, we use it. I use it, I guess, quite a lot of work just for my own tasks, and some of them will probably become tasks, in the company that now no one has to do this job because it's done by Python.
Sure.
And I can see a lot of workplaces, using this on a daily basis to get jobs done that you don't want to write necessarily like a full application. You don't want to have to go through the whole production process of the tool, get someone in to learn, to do all the C++ and make an application with a GUI. You just want someone to write a little script that will just do this thing for a few months because it's wasting your time. So so it's actually a useful language. It's cool.
That's a really good point as well. One of the things that I've kind of begun to realize with it, that for a long time, maybe sort of 10 years ago, I suppose, for a long time, there was this kind of vision about what they call RAD tools, rapid application development tools, and these toolkits for kind of being able to prototype and glue things together. And of course, as test-driven development, extreme programming, and agile development has come along, we've realized that, some of that more arcane kind of planning, plotting, systems analysis kind of structures that we were all taught at college, we seem to have moved, that certainly the open source style of development has demonstrated that actually that isn't as an effective way as just, first of all, lashing a prototype together, getting something working in a rough form, and then being able to start, rounding the corners of it, improving it. And Python is just fantastic for being able to do significant things really, really fast by just plumbing some components together. And I think that that's a real strength, and it certainly out competes languages like PHP and things like that by a tremendous mark in terms of how quickly you can get something done.
And it's, when you get a bit more advanced, it's also got a lot of applications, so it can replace PHP in terms of your website, for instance. So it's not just a language for scripting in a terminal. There are huge websites built on Python. There are companies with their whole data analytic stacks. Kind of Python is a core element in that. Might be talking to things like Hadoop and things, but probably a lot of it's scripted by Python. So yeah, it's got a massive variety of applications, and therefore it's, I think it's a valuable end goal if you're learning as someone new to programming. You're like, yeah, I'm learning something which I can actually use. You're not learning calligraphy first to learn how to use a pen, and then you're like, oh, great, I can do calligraphy, but now I need to learn how to draw if I'm actually going to get paid for it.
It's been around quite a while, Python. Is it in danger of being superseded by something else? Something similar that does its job like more than it does, kind of thing?
Python 3 might supersede Python 2.
That makes sense.
One day, it might one day, if they can never get the community to give up Python 2. But,
yeah.
Python 2, the whole community has fallen in love with Python 2, and Python 3 is correct. Yeah, Python 3 has corrected a lot of what would you say? Maybe mistakes. That's probably the wrong word. But Guido, who wrote the who obviously wrote the Python stuff. I think his name's Guido. Correct me if I'm wrong there. Maybe I'm mixing it up. Yeah. So obviously he set about wanting to create this beautiful, elegant language that kind of tied you up into the constructs of good programming, of good program writing, good structure, get rid of the arcane symbolism like square brackets, curly brackets, semicolons, and things like this, to make code that was readable and accessible to people. That was his objective. The second element of it was to create a language where everything was an object. So even an integer, a simple integer number, is an object, and that kind of and that's really good to get into that mode at the very beginning. I think I struggled to get across that gap from procedural functional programming to understanding and getting my head around object-orientated programming. It was almost as though I was held back by my by being tied to a structured functional language like C or Pascal or COBOL or things that I'd learned earlier on. But the mistakes that had happened in Python 2 get ironed out with improvements, and they are significant improvements in Python 3 that make it really worthwhile. But the community doesn't want to let go. They don't want to port their code from Python 2, and so they force all the distros to keep Python 2.7 in there. And obviously there'll continue to be iterations of Python 3 going forward, and it's so widely and well deployed, and it's got such a lot of uptake that the chances of it being just discarded and thrown to one side, I think, are minuscule. What's your take on that, guys?
Wholeheartedly agree. I mean, I think it is almost a shame that the community is kind of split between 2 and 3. It's slightly frustrating when you go to one website and see a tutorial for Python 2 or Python 3, and 90% of it applies to the other, but not all of it. So I think that does make it a bit more complicated to learn. If I was learning one now, I mean, it's not even like you can say 2 is on the way out, so learn 3, because
right,
kind of going forward but apart. But equally, it's not a vast difference. I mean, like you say, they fixed a bunch of the things, and there are a few kind of language constructs that have changed. But I think if you learn one, moving to the other wouldn't be a pain. If all of a sudden you're like, I am new to programming, I'm going to learn Python 2 because my friend told me it's better, and then all of a sudden Python 2 disappeared, it wouldn't be a massive stretch to move to 3. You just have to unlearn 10% of what you learned and replace the gaps.
It's just a question of it being so popular that people think, hey, I mean, it's not in any danger of it going anywhere, so I don't really have to uproot yet, kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, I think there is that, and I certainly, when I started exploring the language, I kind of, because there was this split, and I was kind of going, oh, what do I do? Like, do I work with the legacy language, and I'm going to end up with code that will be stuck, and I mightn't be able to port it, or do I use Python 3? And I really deliberated over that over a bit, and the conclusion that I came to in the end was that I felt that it's probably better if you're working on new projects or new things or things that you want to play about with you, beginning the journey, to actually your distro probably includes Python 2.7 at the moment, and it may well include Python 3 or a version of it. They may well be joined together. But I decided to install Python 3 and make sure it was available and write my code in Python 3. And one of the reasons was that in the main, there is an aspect of backward compatibility. And I also thought to myself, well, these improvements that have been made to the way Python 3 handles some of the language constructs are worthwhile. And if it's my code and I'm developing it going forward, well then I don't see that being an inhibitor. So I decided that I'd do that, but that wouldn't obviously stop me maintaining code in Python 2.7. It's not that vast. It's not a big chasm. It's not a big difference.
Sure.
What I also have got on the shelf here, I've got a massive library full of books floating around all over the place, and I've got 3 here that I wanted to cover with you. Now these are not the most recent versions. I've had them knocking around for a little while, to tell you the truth, and I'll come to this one last actually because I really like this one. It's a really, really good book. But I've got a couple of O'Reilly books here, just for the viewers out there. One is the Python Cookbook. I don't know if you guys have come across cookbooks in the past for different things, but I think cookbooks are just ace. Yeah, well,
you're right.
What does he mean?
Anything you say is fair enough, to be honest.
Let's have a comedy moment. Last time I came to your house for dinner, I decided, Jack, that the next time I visit, I'm going to come with several cookbooks.
And we can eat.
So anyway, so basically O'Reilly, I've got a few really good books. This is a really old version. It covers Python 2.4, but you'll be able to get the new version from O'Reilly, and this is Programming Python. Fairly thick tome, comes with a CD in the back. It's a really, really good book. It is just it covers just so many aspects of the language, and it's fantastic just for reading and exploring and as a reference. So those 2 are brilliant. And if you're beginning the journey of messing about with Python and you like to work from a book and kind of study and play and experiment, then I wholeheartedly recommend this book. This is an A-Press book by Magnus Lee Hetland, and it's Beginning Python from Novice to Professional. And this guy kind of like progresses in a really, really nice way from the very beginnings of just writing some simple scripts to using toolkits and windowing widgets and creating fully fledged applications inside of Python, and it's just a smashing book. So I found them really, really useful. And the only thing I would say about them is that I still, to date, have not been able to spend enough time with them or with writing Python stuff, because that's what children do to you, isn't it, Jack?
Well, yeah, I'm told they'll kill me in the end, so I guess it's all preferable.
You're watching Game of Thrones too much, Jack.
Yeah, that's right. Well, I told you there's been a lot of TV going on.
I told you shouldn't have called your kid Tyrion Lannister.
Oh no, that's a class name. That's a class name for a class act. She's the right height though.
Now, also in the show notes here, I'm going to copy this little link that I found, which is a really cool YouTube video, and I'm just going to fire this out whilst we're talking about this. I'm going to fire this out into the show page. Python video. If I can get that to go in there, so anybody watching this can go and have a look at this if they want to. No, they can't, because it's decided it's going to do some other weird link. Oh right, hang on a moment. I see why. It's because 1 second, if I do it this way, it'll work. So for those of you watching, go and take a look at this 5-minute video. It is really, really good. This guy kind of sets the lowdown on like how to program, how to get to learn Python in 5 minutes. And that sounds like, what? You've got to be kidding. That is not possible. But I actually think that the guy is spot on. And he more or less says what you always say, John, which is, get an editor open, get a little project, that you're going to spend no more than 3 days. You're going to do 2 days of coding to build something and 1 day of documenting and refactoring. That's it. You can't take any more time than that. And that takes you 5 minutes to work out what the project is. And then you open up your text editor and you just start cutting and pasting from the internet, plugging things together, and you go build your project. And 3 days later, you've got a finished toy that you've built. And of course, you've learned a whole ton of stuff in a really short period of time.
No, that's pretty cool.
I've never used it, but it does sound like it's right up my alley. It sounds like, well, powerful, popular, so it's well supported, and encourages you to write neatly.
And again, going back to the kind of tons of libraries thing, I mean, there are libraries to make 2D games with it. You know, it's not just a kind of a run once and you're done scripting language.
Sure.
And the GUI libraries, I mean, there are quite a lot of them, so I think I wouldn't jump straight into doing graphical user interfaces if I was new to coding.
No, sure.
But a game is actually probably simpler if it's a simple game. So if you want to do one of your text adventures or something, Jack, I think Python would be a really good way of, a good way to learn Python would be to write a text adventure.
Oh, right, yeah, sure. Yeah, that's a fair point.
A picture at the top of the screen, a bunch of text underneath, and then you can type in commands going off, spit in troll's face. Or,
Yeah. Yeah, I've been wondering about that because like the stuff that I normally use is very much more geared towards graphics, and I don't think it would handle a text one terribly well. I mean, you could do it, but it would be so much easier to do it the way you're talking about it with some sort of actual code-based environment. Yeah, it might be a good excuse to give it a go when I've got a quiet evening.
So sometime in 15 years.
No, they happen more and more. They happen more and more now. It's I know my mum said it'll get easier, and it has actually got easier. She wasn't completely lying.
But the cool thing, obviously, is you can just flick a switch on your Raspberry Pi one night and just get your keyboard out and have a go.
Yeah.
You've probably already got it installed on your, or maybe not on the Raspberry Pi.
I don't think so. No, I think OpenELEC is just like the whole operating system. It's not like I don't think it's like that Raspberry MC.
I would be surprised if nothing in OpenELEC needed Python. Like Python, there's probably something there which is actually a Python script. So I suspect it doesn't Python installed. So.
That's true. It's got some sort of thing going on in the back.
Almost all of the modules, all of the these downloadable, installable modules the plugins that you pull in, they are all Python scripts. Even the things that install them, so they pull in and download and install Python scripts in the background, and that actually makes them relatively easy to write and create plugins for different things. Hence the reason why you got so many of them.
Yeah. Oh, that makes sense. Yeah.
Write your own Kodi plugin, Jack.
God, no thanks.
Well. I know. In this section, we like to we in the deep thought section, we like to kind of get deep into it, and I brought an example. I know it's very often it's usually John that we tap up for the tap John's brain up, Dr. John, to come to the table, but I've got something I wanted to share with you, an experience of using Python actually to get me out of a corner for actually a reasonably significant problem. So here's the problem domain. The problem domain is that I've got a daemon, so a service daemon running on a Linux box, and the service daemon is collecting data from the database and various data sources and so on and so forth, and it's got an open socket that it's streaming off to another server, and that's a constant byte stream over a socket, and there's all sorts of data in there that basically relates to different things, and it's all in one big munged stream. But each data payload or each entity is a JSON object, right? So it's a simple text object, a JSON object, and there are identifiers in those JSON objects that basically identify kind of different endpoints that this data might relate to. Now, because the analytics engine on the other server at the far end is just sucking up this data and putting it into its own index database, the stream is just a single byte stream that's just pulling data all the time. The problem that I was faced with was that one of these endpoints, one of these customers, decides that they want us all of a sudden to filter out all of their data and to selectively send pieces of it to a totally different endpoint, and they want that to be those transactions to happen over HTTP as HTTP posts rather than socket endpoint streams. So in traditional Rick fashion, because I'm a kind of like, you should be able to heal the world using Bash. So let's start there. So I sat down and thought about the problem for a while, and I did think to myself, I thought, oh boy, this is going to be actually quite a challenge. So I thought, right, all right, well, I tell you what I'll do is I'm going to string together a bunch of tools. So I'm going to use some sed and some awk for my filtering. I'm going to use netcat to create some loopback sockets. So basically I'm going to fire a socket from one point to another, and then what I'm going to need to do is I'm going to need to duplicate the stream. So I'm going to have to, because I have to continue sending the byte stream to the endpoint server, but at the same time I need to capture a copy of that stream and put it somewhere. So I thought, I know what I'll do. I got a really good idea. I'll use some first in, first out pipes that I create in the file system. So it was all looking good. Okay, right. So I spent 8 hours smashing this with my bash hammer to no avail. I'm just thinking, oh, why is this so hard, you know? And it was kind of like the endpoints would, the FIFO pipes would start and stop, and then the data wouldn't come out of it, and then I couldn't get the regexes right in sed, and the filters weren't coming right, and it was breaking all over the place, and it was just like massively unreliable. And I just thought, in the end, I sat back, walked away with a cup of coffee, and thought, I'm just doing this wrong. I've got the wrong tool for the job, and I'm just making life difficult. So I went back and I thought to myself, right, what do I need to do? And I thought, okay, well, I need to interrupt this socket stream. I need to be that other server's endpoint. So I'm going to need a TCP socket server that can be the receiver, and that can duplicate and send that. So I went off to Python, got a Python interpreter open, went to Google and put Python TCP socket server, and there I found a Stack Overflow page that said Python TCP socket server. All you need to do is import socket server. And I thought, you've got to be kidding me. Sure enough, so I put import socket server, and then there was a little bit of code to basically instantiate a class, set up a socket and a port, and fire up an object, and then give you connect and disconnect functions and so on and so forth, right? So I thought, okay, so I got that running, and sure enough, almost within like 5 minutes, I had it coming in one port, a copy being fired out to another port, and a stream going out to standard out. And I thought, ace, that's precisely what I need. All right, so I thought, what I need now, the problem I've got now is that all of this data is in JSON, so I'm going to have to try to come up with an algorithm to munge this. And I thought, I wonder. So I put Python JSON into Google, and it takes me to Stack Overflow again, and it says, JSON library, just do import JSON. So I thought, okay, fair enough. So I put that in as the next line, import JSON. And then it said, all you do with this is you just basically call this JSON function, JSON encode, JSON decode, and give it the data. So I was taking basically 2 kilobytes of data from the stream, handing it to this JSON object, and it was giving me back an encoded or a decoded JSON entity. Ace. So I thought, right, okay, well, what we need to do now, of course, is now I need a HTTP service like curl that you might use from the command line. I need something that can fire to a HTTP endpoint. So a little bit of searching around, and I found something called URL-lib2, which is a full TCP service. So you get the picture of what I'm doing here, right? So I've plugged in 3 components, and so far it's taken me 25 minutes to plug these 3 components together now, and now I've got data coming out and going off to the endpoint and so on and so forth. Now, in fairness, it wasn't as simple as that. There were a few mistakes that I fell over, and one of them was, which I'll discuss just for the exercise actually, because it's an interesting point in learning about data structures and how data structures can really help you out. One of the problems I had was that I was grabbing 2 kilobytes from the socket, from the socket stream in block chunks from the buffer. Now, there was no guarantee that inside of that socket I would have full end-to-end JSON entities, and indeed I didn't. Sometimes the beginning of the buffer I'd have half an entity in it, with say the start, and at the end of the buffer I might have the starting half of another one. And so when I was firing this off to my JSON decoder encoder, it was throwing errors. So as it was looping around, you see it spitting these errors out as it couldn't process things. But it didn't fail. That was the important thing, is that the error handling and the validation inside of the JSON object was really elegant. So it'd throw an error, it'd give you some feedback, and then it'd carry on and say, give me the next one, and it'd recover from it. It was, you know, it was really good. So I was trying to solve this problem and thinking to myself, wow, okay, what I need to do is I need to make sure that I'm passing full entities to this object all the time. And as I thought about it, and I thought, well, okay, when I grab the first packet from the socket, the worst case scenario is I've got half an entity at the start and half an entity at the end on my first read. So I thought what I'll do is I'll throw away the first half entity, because that's useless to me, that's no good. And what I'll do is I'll take the other half entity. If I get an error from the JSON object, I know I've got half entity, I'll put it onto a stack. Now, viewers out there that don't know what a stack is, go and have a look and find out what stacks and FIFO buffers and LIFO buffers are and things like that. They're data structures that can really help you out. And then, of course, what you would do is set a flag to tell the code that there was an entity on the stack. So in the next read of the socket, I'd get the other half, and I'd pull that back off the stack and then pass that to the JSON encoder. Within about an hour and 45 minutes, I had a solution, all plumbed together and all working and doing precisely what I wanted to do. And it was something that I could not achieve with, you know, 8 hours of shell scripting and bash munging and God knows what else. And that's my testimonial for why I think Python is awesome.
Yeah, and I mean, once you are aware of all those modules and libraries that exist, obviously you start to think of Python as your first choice in the future, instead of sort of maybe thinking Bash first. You think, hang on, I know there's a JSON library and an XML library and a plist library, and yeah, I could do all that really easy. And like you say, there's always going to be a few challenges on the way, but that makes it fun, right?
Yeah, it does. I mean, when I eventually cracked the problem of how to handle those those broken JSON objects, and in actual fact, it took me all the way back to being about 15 years old when I used to write assembler, because writing assembler, you're always pushing and pulling from the stack and moving things around because you had such a tiny amount of space to work in. And I was just sitting there trying to, you know, been sitting there for about 20 minutes, and then all of a sudden that whole BCDE Z80 register set came into my head, and I thought, yeah, what I need here, the data model that I need here is a stack that, you know, and then I felt really good, and when it worked, I thought, oh yeah, oh yeah.
Yeah, it's all right as long as it doesn't matter how long it takes. If you crack it in the end, it almost doesn't matter that it wasn't worth the time in the real world. It was worth it to you. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And knowing is like, well, it's an investment, isn't it?
But that's a prime example, and that's a really cool script there, and it's awesome to hear that you learned more about Python that way, because it's such a good example of the sort of things we do, you know, quite often with Python at work. It just needs solving. Python.
Yeah. So, you know, so I think the message really for folks watching and listening is kind of, be not ye afraid. Stack Overflow is your friend. Go and have a go with Python and find yourself some little projects that you can tinker with. And I think most people would find, John, that they'll probably astonish themselves quite quickly at just what they can achieve with this simple little language. They can achieve really great results that kind of give you a really good buzz and a really good kind of geek feel-good factor.
Before we kind of close up on Python, there's a couple of shout-outs to make again. I say shout-outs, but there's a really good app on iPad called Pythonista. It's for iPhone too, but we've talked about it before. But it's just a fully enclosed little integrated development environment for iPad, so you can just bring it up. You've got half an hour on the train or something, have a little play with Python, write a little script that does something simple. They've got like a full GUI libraries built in for iPad, so you can make little iPad apps that you can touch and things. I mean, they're obviously a bit more complicated, or you can make little 2D games. Yeah, it's just a cool little environment, and again, it's all about that playing and the fact you can just play on your tablet. And to be honest, I mean, it's probably got all those libraries you were talking about. So I mean, you wouldn't want your poor little tablet to do the work, but you could probably write that endpoint and have it doing the JSON and the socket, the HTTP streams and things. So, it's got, obviously not all the libraries, but it's got a hell of a pack of libraries for something running on an iPad. And I've done little scripts that scrape things off the internet and stuff, just straight from my iPad. So.
Yeah, I remember on in a show a couple of shows in the past because it's been around for a while. I think when it first came out on the iPad, we covered it. You covered it in the app section, in the app reviews, and then they did an updated version on the new iPad, and you covered it again. I've got a copy of it on my iPad, and it is really good. It's really good to play about with. And also, it's got a whole bunch of little example games, some simple card games and image flicking games, guess the image, and a number of other things. And of course, you can go in and hack the code and change things about on it. And we had to play around, myself and Rhiannon one day. We had to play around with a little game, and what she likes to do, which she learned from scratch, was to go in and change the colours on things, set some ridiculous high score so she becomes top of the leaderboard. She likes doing that, won't play the game to learn it. Just hack the game is much more fun, and just put the score in you want. And even yeah, so we sit there on Pythonista and hack around and change the backgrounds on things and so on and so forth, and and she gets it really easily, she gets the hang of it and away she goes. And as you say, it's dead convenient because sitting there and you can play about with it on your iPad. Do you know if there's a version of that for Android at all, John?
The same company haven't done one, but there must be similar Android apps. I mean, I obviously haven't looked because I have an iPad, but there must be a Python IDE for Android. One called QPython here. It looks like it's got fairly high ratings. I mean, on both platforms, there are ones that are free that are okay, and then there are ones that are a bit more expensive, but then they're a bit more glossy. So
yeah,
it's the usual way. I mean, Pythonista was, I think it was like $6.99 when I bought it. It's well worth that if you're actually going to try and learn the language, because it colours your code for you, it spots some errors before you hit go, and the whole experience is a lot nicer. And if you actually want to learn the language for an extra couple of quid, it's definitely worth that. But if you're a hacker type and you just want to, a fair bit of Python, and you just want to get better, then one of the free ones equally will just do the job just as well. But there's also other things you can do if you want to play with Python and not install it. Although why you wouldn't want to install it, I'm not sure. Because not on Mac or Linux, you have it installed already, and if you've got Windows, it's not 50 megs or something. It's not a big install. But there are websites as well. Like there's Python Anywhere.
Okay.
Run it in a browser. So if you just want to play, you can just go to this. There is a free one, I think. I think you can create an account.
Python Anywhere sounds pretty good. I'm going to go and look at that.
I think there's you can get a free account, which is obviously limited to how much power you get. And if you like it, you can pay a bit more. But there's also a website called Coding with a K, coding.com, and it's like a virtual machine on the web. So you get a tiny one for free. You get like a little 3 gigabyte virtual machine, which is like a web server basically. But you get a full terminal through your web browser, which is kind of cool. So you can just, if you're learning something like this, like Python, it's kind of cool because there is a machine in the web, like in the cloud, which you can log into. So your scripts will be saved there, and things will be persistent. So disappearing. And you can just sign up for a free account, log in, build a new virtual machine by clicking a button, and once it's installed, you can just type Python and off you go. And right within your browser, you can edit one tab. Like you can have one tab open, which is a little text editor, another tab open, which is a terminal, but it's all within one Chrome window. And you can even drag and drop files up and down. So if you want to download your Python script at the end of the day, you just drag it onto your desktop.
That's nice.
But yeah, it's really cool. I can send you an invite, Rick, because then we both get more space.
Yeah, that'd be really. What, you send me an invite for coding.com?
Yeah, I'll do that as soon as the show is over. But
all right, and I'll tell you what, I'll sign up to that and have a go at it, and because that just looks so cool.
Apparently, you can even hook other virtual machines into it. So if you have a virtual machine running somewhere else and you don't mind them, your SSH connection going through them, I think you can use all their fancy web interface with your own virtual machines. But I mean, so the one downside of the free account is that every time you log in, you have to turn on your VM, because if you log out for more than 10 minutes, it turns off. So you can't use it as a web server when you're on the free account. But like that's the free account, right? So
yeah, sure.
If you just want to log in and play with some Python and keep all your files somewhere, it's really cool. So, that's coding with a K, and yeah, it's, maybe if you're just starting out with the whole programming thing and you're not really comfortable with Linux, I'll probably just download Python. But if you're reasonably comfortable with Linux and thought, I should try this Python thing, it's definitely worth checking out coding, because it's simple. It's just sign up, log in, and then within a couple of minutes, because it builds your virtual machine, you're off, and you can just write a Python script in the top half of the screen and run it in the bottom half and see what happens. So pretty cool.
Yeah, that is very cool. What I'm also putting some links in the show notes here as well for all of this stuff. And for those of you that are viewing, if you jump onto our Google Plus page, you'll find that for this event there is now a shared link for the show notes. So you can just you can't edit them via that link, but you can jump in there and click on all the links and all the bits and pieces as we flesh this out. So if we want to chuck some links in there for different things, do you have that link to hand, John, for the DVB radio thing that we were talking about? The little GNU radio thing. You were looking at that.
I don't think I do anymore. I'm afraid I closed it. But
oh, okay. I'll find that and pop that in there so that folks can have a look at that. It only just dawned on me that I could do that via
I'll put my link.
Drive. Oh yeah, right. That's good.
So if you follow that link, then we both. I think you both get a little space. I'm not sure, but I assume that's the usual thing, right? If you sign up to a referral thing, you both get a kind of more space. So. What else have we talked? We'll do this in a second, but there's a few more links for things. I'll have the Pythonista link. That's not a good link. What I was thinking of.
Yeah.
I think that's a good introduction to Python. Feels like a nice rounded out introduction.
Yeah, you don't want to scare people off, do you? You want to make it seem. You want to put people in at the right end of the pool, don't you?
Next week we'll talk about all the really hard stuff. No, I'm joking.
I've got a YouTube link here for this. It's I figured out what it is, that device. I'm going to put the thing so that folks can search in there. The device is a I'm going to put this YouTube link first. So this is the DV link to some YouTube videos showing you that SDR software-defined radio thing in there, and the device is a Realtek. It's an RTL 2832.
Cool. There's a lot of geeky stuff to play with now. Yeah, this show, I love the energy you can get sometimes. Oh yeah, I want to play with all this stuff.
Yeah, it's like talking about toys, isn't it?
Yeah. Grown-up toys.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, of course. So we've torn through it again. Would you believe, guys, that that's an hour and a half show? It's now 1 minute to 10, and very cool to have random guests diving in and visiting us on IRC. That's really good.
Yeah, it's nice to have somebody
more of that.
watching.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, we've done 32 shows, and and so far we've had one viewer.
Proof of life, they call that.
Well, as I said at the opening of the show, you know, Jupiter Broadcasting, read 'em and weep.
Yeah, that's it. Catching you up. We're chasing your tail.
We always know the true magic of AtRandom is that you can listen to it whenever you like. The archive is where the magic is. So go back to our website and listen back to some of our old shows if you like the show. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So you can check us out at atrandom.org.uk. And you can also get in touch with us on our Google Plus page, and you can find all of those links somewhere. I'm not even sure if they're in the show notes, but given that we link the show notes to the Google Plus page, if you want the show notes, you're going to have to find the Google Plus page first. But if you're listening to this show, you're already clever enough to achieve that. We don't need to tell you how to find out where we are. As always, you can get in touch with us. You can send us email to show@atrandom.org.uk. We've never had any emails yet. Nobody's sent any emails there.
I'm not going to lie to you, Rick. I did actually send an email there about a month ago and realised I'm not sure how long it's been dead for, but it's certainly dead now.
Yeah, it is. I think it's actually been dead forever. I don't think it ever receives emails. But we should never let people, what's the word I'm looking for? We should never discourage people from sending us emails. And the nice thing about not having the account set up is that we guarantee you'll get a response. Now, it's probably going to be a 550, an SMTP 550 response. But hey, listen. At least we're talking to you.
It's kind of like the Beatles responding to all their fan mail, isn't it?
You can always get us on Google Plus or hit us up on Twitter. And maybe I'll make a promise. By the next episode, our email account will work again.
You can definitely get a hold of them too. I can't speak for me, but try it.
Yeah.
See what happens.
Yeah. So, well, of course, we did have a little bit of domain problems a year ago or so, didn't we? Because we had atrandom.org, didn't we? And
that's right. Yeah.
And do you remember they wanted $6,000 to get that back, or something stupid? I don't know what it was. It was something ridiculous.
Yeah.
They obviously heard about our show and went, they are one big ass show, and they've made a mistake by letting the domain slip. Let's get them.
Joke's on you, mate.
Magic.
Good stuff. One last quick anecdote. But in Sweden, the only reason that there isn't an Amazon here is because some old lady has got Amazon.se and she won't give it up.
Love it.
So they haven't got Amazon here because of her.
Really? Wow.
They just got to find out what she loves and try and take it away, and then she'll give it up.
Oh, they'll just lobby the European Parliament, and all of a sudden, she'll be just, an arrest warrant will come in from southern Hungary, and she'll be just stripped out by the Gestapo, thrown on a plane, and locked in jail somewhere. And then when the domain expires, Amazon will just buy it. Simple.
She has to live in a house with Julian Assange for the rest of her life.
Yeah. There you go. You see, never discount the power of the European arrest warrant. Good. Okay. Well, listen, guys. I suppose we ought to wrap it up in our usual traditional format. So it's been absolutely great fun as ever. This show is just such fun to do, to hang out with you guys. So thank you both for some good times and some great conversation. It's been really, really interesting show. Do check out the links and check out our show notes on our Google Plus, etc. My name's Rick Timmis. Glad you could join us. I'll see you soon.
I've been John Wordsworth. Thanks ever so much for listening.
And I'm Jackson Matthews, and this is AtRandom, the show that takes a while to get you there but always leaves you satisfied.